Hey class, I want to talk with you guys a little bit about one of the questions from last week's discussion board. Instead of typing up a huge answer for everybody in your feedback, I just want to talk about it a little bit because it was kind of a tricky one, and a lot of you came up with different options and different answers, which is great. So the first thing I want to mention is logical fallacies are weird in that there are a ton of them. There's a lot of listed logical fallacies, and a lot of them overlap. So when you ask people like, hey, name the fallacy here, sometimes it's obvious. But even when it's pretty obvious, there's oftentimes other fallacies that you could argue about and say, well, it's also this. And that's totally fine. That's totally true. The important thing is to be able to figure out whether or not something is a fallacy or not and understand why it's a fallacy or not. So the one I wanted to pick apart today is in the discussion board from last week, A2. So here's the prompt. Here's what it said. Survey shows that more than 70% of high school seniors believe that novel means book. Therefore, novel does mean book. Now, several of you read that at the very beginning and said, nope, that makes sense. That seems about right. But there's some trickiness here. There's a couple of things, actually. It's a pretty good question as far as being kind of a jerk question that's going to fool you. So first off, notice what section this was under. And this was under fallacies of relevance. So you should be starting off to think like, okay, is this relevant? 70% of high school seniors say that novel means book. Yeah, that's relevant. I mean, seniors are studying books, right? But you start picking it apart, you break it down, and it could be 100% of seniors believe that novel means book. Does that matter? Start thinking about the word senior. Start breaking that apart and start thinking about, wait a minute, we're talking about 70% of one grade believes this. 70% of the students so not even 100%. It could be 100% of seniors. It's just high school seniors. That's like 17-year-olds. That's like saying 70% of 17-year-olds, another way to put it, 17-year-olds believe that novel means book. Say it that way and you'll be like, well, yeah, that actually doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're not 17, I'm guessing, and your opinion should count towards what we all say words mean, right? It's such a small percentage. It starts becoming an irrelevant percentage when you get down to that. It's 70% of, I don't know, if you break everybody down by age, if you say everybody lives to 100, then that's 1%. So it's 70% of 1% believes this. So is that relevant? No. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. As far as what fallacy to call it, well, you can jump in a couple. I've seen some of you were saying it was bandwagon. That makes sense. That works, kind of. I can see that. Somebody also pointed out ad populum. That's the one I would say more. That's the one where people make fallacies out of what just a popular statistics say. Popular statistics say blank, so therefore it is true, which is also not true, right? If you can expand this concept from high school seniors to that, you can start seeing that there's logical fallacies all over the place. The last little tidbit that I want to make sure I point out is the part where it says believe. Right? 70% of high school seniors believe. That should also break it apart because now you're saying, well, we're just talking about beliefs equal meaning, equal truth. And that's a little tough too. So you can see there's all kinds of fallacies at work in here. When you start looking at it, this whole thing falls apart. And should, if you pick it apart enough, start becoming completely ridiculous, right? I mean, 70% of high school seniors could believe literally anything and it won't make any meaning or truth. 70% of high school seniors could believe in something that only high school seniors matter to. But again, we're talking about children. Do we let children make meaning? Do we let children decide? So there's all kinds of directions that you can rip this apart. And I encourage you to, as you're writing your next paper and you start thinking through the articles that you're tearing apart, I want you to be looking for any logical discontinuity you can find and really highlight it. Because most articles are full of it. It just happens. It's the times we live in. It's better than it used to be. Well, actually, I don't know about that. It's better than certain periods in our past. But yeah, so there you go. I just want to make sure that I talked about that because I'm going to mention this a lot in your guys' feedback. So hopefully you can just see this video here and that'll be quick. Anyway, good luck with your paper and yeah, keep going. You guys are doing a great job.